What is up, YouTubes? Spoilers are done for Throne of Eldraine, and this is one of the most unique expansion sets we've seen in a very long time. And you've probably come here because you want to figure out how can I recreate Camelot and the Brother Grimm fairy tales in my image so that my pre-release has, well, that fairy tale ending that I'm hoping for. But I got a challenge for you to write a short little poem or haiku or something, just referencing your favorite card in Throne of Eldraine, and see if people get it down in the comments. I got mine down there if you want to check it out. I'm really excited about this set though. If you're going to a pre-release, you've come to the right place to check out what's happening in the set, what do you need to be prepared for. But then also, if you're gonna buy cards online, I'm just gonna throw out there, buy from Card Kingdom. They support the channel. I think they have amazing customer service. I'm just a big fan of them. So without further ado, let's get into it. Starting with what's new in Throne of Eldraine, first we have the adventure mechanic. Simply put, it is a new form of split card. When in your hand, you can either cast the creature as is or first send it on an adventure. We have instant speed options like we see here, or sorcery speed ones. Basically, something happens during that adventure, like getting some bear tokens, and after casting the adventure piece, the card is placed in exile, where I suppose all good adventures lead, I guess. Then while exiled, you can cast them like any other creature. Quick reminder, you can only send the creature on an adventure when it's in your hand. Once it's in play, you cannot go on that adventure later on. The other new mechanic is Adamant, and it says if at least 3 of a specific color of mana were spent to cast it, you get some bonus value or effect, like we see here with Turn into a Pumpkin, we get a food token. Yeah, that's right, we finally have actual food tokens. Pay 2, tap and sacrifice it, and you gain 3 life. We also have a new Planeswalker, which is very exciting, in Oko, and he is, or at least thinks he is, a really big deal. He also seems to like food tokens. Our second Planeswalker is Rowan and her brother Will, who both appear in the same Planeswalker card as seen in the Royal Scions. And our third Planeswalker in this set is Garruk. That's right, he's back. We have a lot to catch up on, but that's for another video. Something else to keep in mind is Knights are the main tribe of this set, and they appear in every color to some extent. Colored artifacts are in the set as well, with some of them helping you out and being easier to equip onto those Knights of yours. Now to get into the cards, just know all 10 dual color pairings work, and the gold cards are the usual signpost signals for what each color pairing is trying to do. Starting with white, and blue-white flyers is here in force, with fairy creatures, another strong tribal presence in the set, as we see here with Shine Chaser. They have some fantastic commons and uncommons to work with, like Ardenvale Tactician, Animating Fairy, and Fairy Guidemother. Arcanist Owl also pays us off for working in those artifacts and enchantments into our build. I'd also recommend playing a card like True Love's Kiss with just about any white deck because of how common artifacts and enchantments are in this set. Or at the very least, have it at the ready in your sideboard. But the game plan here is very straightforward. Be evasive, be disruptive, and swing for the win. White-black is the classic Knight tribal pairing, a tale as old as time. Wintermoor Commander pushes us to be a bit more aggressive while making it a bit safer to charge in as well. We have all kinds of fun Knights to pair together, human Knights on horses, spirit Knights on spirit horses, and this smitten Swordmaster who is like, hey, you see this? I'm kind of a big deal. There's a good amount of removal, especially in black, so get on the board ASAP, capitalize on those high value cards, and use your removal to keep the walkway to victory clear. Red-white is also focused on Knight Tribal, but here we see human Knights paired up with Goblin Knights and some Ogres. Fireborn Knight and all your other creatures are definitely interested in using those artifacts and enchantments to make them more difficult for your opponent to deal with, and this color pair can do insane damage in a hurry if left unchecked. The goal here is to never let your opponent stabilize, take advantage of the abilities your creatures have, or share like Ogre Errant when it attacks. Red also has good removal, but do be mindful when deciding whether to pump up your board or, instead, taking that opportunity to burn up your opponent's creatures. All good fairy tales have a little fire after all. White-green is the go wide option, but it also wants you to go on adventures. Wandermare is a card that grows from every creature you cast with adventure. Mysterious Pathlighter makes all of those creatures bigger once they do show up to play. Occam Ranger is here as a living pump spell for your board, but I'm most impressed with the card draw options green has in this set. Creatures like Edgewall Innkeeper want to hear your adventures, which he will then tell to the Keeper of Fables. This looks like one of the most flavor-packed color pairings, and rewards you the most for having a wide, adventurer-filled board. Moving on to blue-black, with Drown in the Loch and Covetous Urge, I don't know what else to say here other than they want to ruin your opponent's plans. I mean, blue has a creature counterspell combo on the same card. That's crazy. Blue-black is also the main fairy color combination in this set, meaning they want to cause all kinds of mischief and mayhem. You have hand disruption, spellcasting disruption, board disruption, and plenty of flying and night creatures to work with. This color pairing feels like you can do anything you want, but remember to play enough of your own creatures to actually do damage at some point. I'm all for being creative, but consistency will be key here. Moving on to blue-red, this color combo wants you to draw more cards and get through your deck and take advantage of drawing those extra cards. Our gold cards, Improbable Alliance and Lock Dragon, give us great rummaging effects, and hopefully Fairy Vandal is around, as it is one of the best creatures we can play while we churn through our deck. Other great cards are Mad Ratter, Steelgaze Griffin, and Bloodhaze Wolverine. This color pairing wants to be aggressive and evasive, so save those counter spells for your opponent's bigger creatures, and then use your red spells to burn up their smaller blockers. This color pairing looks like a lot of fun to me, but certainly gives you multiple ways and creative lines to close out a game. Blue-green is an age-old personal favorite. You want to build up and go tall with the biggest bodies on the board. Maraleaf Pixie is great because it can help with annoying flyers while also providing ramp. Other ramp options are Beanstalk Giant and Gilded Goose if we're lucky to pull them. Then Thunderous Snapper says once we get into the late game, we should be unstoppable, playing big spells and drawing cards just for casting them. Runaway Together is fun too because we can bounce a creature with adventure on our side to go and do that again, while also getting some good tempo on our opponent's side. My only hesitation here is don't be too greedy playing those expensive spells and maintain a good mana curve. Now, Black-Red probably has one of the most fun game plans because I think Elite Headhunter's reason for existing is to headshot every other creature with food tokens. This is Food Fight Night Tribal, and I'm all for it. Steelclaw Lance helps make sure every creature is a threat as well throughout the game. If we need a break, get a snack, we can bake enemies into pies, and then go out jousting again, and paint the town red, or burn it down, whatever you want. In case you're confused, I wrote a poem to help you remember. Knights on the ground, fairies in the sky, removal to help all your opponent's stuff die. The end. Moving on, black and green is always wanting value, and in this set it's no exception. Savvy Hunter is one of the best gold cards because green and black can make plenty of food tokens, and then Trail of Breadcrumbs keeps you drawing cards. Drawing cards can just win you the game, especially in limited. With black, lean into removal and their strong early game creatures. Both give you food token generation, and green also gives you more big late game bodies that give you control of the board. Last, but definitely not least, is red-green, and their gold card, a legendary creature, Grumgully the Generous. And he's so generous because he makes all of your non-human creatures bigger, giving them 1/1 counters. This is a big deal, especially in limited, where a 1/1 counter can take a creature from manageable to, well, now that's a problem. He pairs crazy well with creatures that have double strike or trample like Fierce Witchstalker, or creatures that want to keep attacking like Sir Farron. Make sure you have a good curve to put pressure on early, have some removal options for problem creatures your opponent brings down, and then of course run them over with your big bodies. Or grow those big bodies and make your own creatures jacked like a beanstalk, which seems like an oxymoron and a terrible pun, but let's move on to the rankings. Monocolor rankings are more meaningful in Throne of Eldraine because of the adamant mechanic. At first glance, black is definitely in that top tier because of how much removal they have, as well as really solid creatures and ways to get them back. Another is red, which seems strong and consistent with early plays that scale well with the equipment they have and brings its own direct damage and removal to the party. Then in tier 2 I have green because it does feel like the color needs a bit of time to set up, so on its own it could fall behind. White feels like it's lacking in its top end, and blue feels a bit hollow to me if your opponent can deal with your small flyers or win the race. For the tier 1 dual color pairings, I have black-white knights, red-white knights, black-red food fight knights, black-green feast, blue-green big things, and blue-white flyers, which all seem very strong and flexible to answer whatever your opponent is doing while being difficult for your opponent to contain. In the second tier, I have green-red, white-green, blue-black, and blue-red. But as always, remember to build what's best supported by your card pool. Don't get distracted by that awesome mythic or bomb and force a color that isn't well supported by the rest of your cards, but also don't be afraid to have fun and be a little creative or splash in a card or two to fill out the area your primary color pairing may not have. With that, some artifacts to keep in mind are Golden Egg. It provides a one-time mana fixing option and replaces itself by drawing you a card. It's also a food, which may matter since cards like Feasting Troll King only care that you sacrifice 3 foods, not just 3 food tokens. Spinning Wheel looks awesome, it's mana fixing, it's locked down for a creature in a pinch, and this card is very good in limited, especially if you need a splash or are lacking removal. If you're on the adamant monocolored or close to monocolored game plan, Heraldic Banner is very strong in the right deck as it pumps up those creatures and ramps you a bit, and then Clockwork Servant is another creature I'd be happy to play in any of those types of decks because a 2/3 that draws you a card is great. However, a vanilla 2/3 that doesn't draw you a card and has no other synergy just feels kinda bad, unless you're desperate for a creature to fill out your curve, but hopefully none of us end up in that spot. A couple other artifacts worth mentioning. Shambling Suit can be very strong, but is probably going to work best in red or white decks with multiple artifacts and enchantments. Scalding Cauldron is a nice removal option that works well in any deck, but is especially good in those that want artifacts and enchantments in play. Lochthwain Gargoyle can also be a decent option if you have no other answers for flying threats, as it munches on those 1 and 2 power fairies we will be seeing a lot of. Prophet of the Peak is a nice curve topper because it's a big body, and the Scry 2 helps you make sure you draw something other than land. Now to finish up the cards that I think you need to keep an eye out for, a couple combos that I'm hoping I can pull off and my opponent does not, is Flutterfox with Rosethorn Halberd. Having to deal with the 4/3 flyer that can attack on turn 3 is definitely something to be worried about, but the play I'm actually most excited for is blocking, casting Righteousness, and then casting Fling on that creature to win the game. And as you can see, there's a lot of good artifacts and enchantments, so I will reiterate that if you're playing white or green, I would probably main deck some artifact and enchantment removal, because we just saw there's cards that will work with every color pairing in the set. Now the thought I keep going back and forth on is how fast will this set be? On one hand, we have aggro strategies like red-white knights and those that go the adamant monocolored route, and they can curve out and finish a game really quick. On the other hand, we have some builds that will push for a longer game and take advantage of card draw and more expensive spells, leaning on the value they get with adventure cards. So with that, I do not expect this set to be as slow as, say, Dominaria or Ravnica Allegiance. I think this set will be similar to Guilds of Ravnica, where some strategies lean into the grindier games and early game removal to stall things out, but some will just have a stampede coming for you that if you can't answer, will close out the game. So some general tips for you. First, you want to cross your fingers and just pray for a good card pool. You know, ask your fairy godmother or fairy guide mother. Hopefully one of them shows up to help you out, because having a good card pool never hurts in a sealed pre-release type of event. But what's even better than having a good card pool is building a deck with a good curve and having enough creatures and removal, build that consistent game plan out, because that's what the best fairy tales have, is a consistent storyline, kind of. I don't know. In this set, you also need to expect evasive threats. You got to be able to stop those annoying ankle biters poking you down through the air, or be able to win the race against them with your game plan that's just going to overpower whatever evasive shenanigans your opponent's trying to do. Because what do we do with our problems? Like any good fairy tale has taught us, we bake it into a pie. What? But really, I want to say, don't use your removal too early. Sometimes people get a little antsy and they remove that insignificant creature because they just don't want to deal with it or take any more hits from it. But use your life as a resource. That's far more beneficial than wasting that removal that could be used later on for a creature that you can't really deal with. And use those instants at instant speed if you can afford it. With how many artifacts are going to be getting equipped and enchantments coming in, if you can get that 2-for-1 or just get your opponent to waste some mana, that can be a huge play that really swings the game in your favor. But I think you all got it from here. I think you can handle it. I'd love to hear what your favorite cards are that you're hoping to pull, or what color pairing you think is the strongest for your pre-release. And of course, come back, let me know how your pre-release went. I always enjoy hearing about what sick plays y'all made or awesome cards you pulled. And just hopefully this video helps you have a good time at your pre-release. Thank you to all my patrons. Y'all make this possible. I can't say it enough. Y'all are awesome. And thank you to Card Kingdom for sponsoring the channel as well. If you're going to buy cards online, you know, I'm always going to say go to your LGS first. That's where they put the events on and such. But if you're going to buy online, buy from Card Kingdom. They have amazing customer service. They support so many awesome content creators. Use my affiliate link in the description just to let them know that content creation matters and you appreciate it. Mean a lot. But with that, best of luck at your pre-release. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.